the premise of this video is pretty simple. We're going to go over if you need coaching, if it aligns with your goals in terms of dating and relationships, and then how it actually works. So the first question, do you need coaching? Why would I need to sit on a video chat with you 1 hour a week for, 6 months or a year and get advice from you face to face, right? Individualized, tailored advice just for you. What advantage would that have? Well, the question you have to ask yourself is, how far away are you from what you want, right? And I don't know what that is. It could be, you have no experience, right? You're a virgin, never even kissed a girl, and you want to, just get something, right? You're pretty desperate. Then you can find someone on the complete other end of the spectrum who has had a very full and colorful dating life and can get very beautiful women, but he hasn't quite found the right girl for him, right? The girl that checks all of the boxes. Or maybe you have, but things didn't work out or things are in trouble because you don't know how to maintain a relationship. There's a lot of guys out there who are very good at picking up girls, and that's not their issue. But they have troubles when it comes to having a healthy relationship with open communication and growth, etc. Right? Think of any problem that can be on either spectrum of being attractive in dating or relationships. The short answer is I can help you with pretty much everything. I've focused since I've been 18 on pretty much nothing but this and, ironically, Buddhism. Those have been the two things that have been, and I guess video games. I'm a video game addict, right? Those have been the things that I have been obsessed with, right? When I'm sitting around, I'm thinking about one of those three things, right? Either playing a video game, I'm thinking about deep philosophical topics within Buddhism. I studied philosophy and religion in college and did my senior thesis on Buddhism. Both I'm very serious about it academically, but also in my personal life. Or I've been thinking about girls and relationships and people and the psychology behind how we interact with each other as men and women in society, and men versus men competing for women and women competing for men, and all of the varied psychological and social mechanisms that are happening because of this competition of, we all want the hottest girl or the coolest girl or whatever, right? It's very deep, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about it, but also experiencing it, right? Failing, getting rejected, getting success, dating lots of girls, one girl, having monogamous relationships. Now I'm married. So I've experienced every, gamut on the color spectrum. I think gamut's a word for colors. But yeah, basically I've experienced a lot of shit. Okay. A lot of horrible things, right? I don't have a naive view of relationships. I definitely am quite hardened and toughened up by a lot of shitty things that have happened. But the thing that might set me apart from a lot of people is that I've never lost my childlike wonder in my love, especially for women, right? But also, excitement for myself and for life. A lot of people, when they experience hard things, heartbreak, infidelity, etc., they kind of go to the dark side. It's a very, very common thing. If you've spent any time in this industry, the dating industry, a lot of the guys out there are extraordinarily toxic. And that's because they, when you fight with monsters, you become a monster, right? And they gave in, right? They think that they're in a dog-eat-dog world and you have to be a dog. I don't think that's the case. I think that a real man can endure a lot of hardship and learn lessons from it, and not be stupid, but still be loving and kind, right? And that doesn't always look how you think it's going to look, right? Like if I were to give you advice on a relationship situation, it might be harsher than you might expect. But in a completely different context, you might be thinking I'm going to be harsh, but actually I'm very gentle and kind. All right. My goal is always to give you advice that is effective, right? Because if it doesn't work, it's not worth my time. But also moral, because even if something works, but it's immoral, it's not worth it. Because in the end, it's always going to bite you in the ass more than whatever short-term gain that you might get. An example might be, you know, guys who lie to women or bullshit women in order to get in their pants, right? They want to get pussy, so they end up implying, you know, that they want a long-term relationship or something. That's most of the time a lot of men's games is to fill women with a lot of expectations, or just to straight up lie, you know, about anything in their life. Or, you know, no, I'm not cheating on you, wink, wink, but, you know, I'm this loving guy who, you know, goes and fucks all these girls, but, you know, I have a heart of gold, but I come off like a, you know, a scoundrel. No, you're just a piece of shit, right? There's a lot of guys who try to, they try to cope and find ways to justify their shitty behavior, right? Like, I'm very committed person. Once you've committed to being exclusive with a woman, you should do that. And in my mind, like, you are, you know, playing with very, very heavy and powerful karma that will come into play in the future if you lie and are unfaithful. But I have been unfaithful in the past, so I've learned my lessons, right? You know, I'm kind of like an alcoholic who's become sober, which is also literally true, right? I've had troubles with drinking and drugs. Right? I'm being very transparent with you right here. I mean that metaphorically and literally, becoming sober. But I've made most of the mistakes that you can make, right? And I've learned a lot of lessons from them. And I take very seriously being moral when it comes to all of this, right? Now that might seem a bit interesting, you know, how can I teach guys to pick up girls? But, you know, I'm also very spiritual and religious and moral. There's a lot of nuance to the situation, a lot more than you would think. But I think as long as you're being honest with women, and as long as you aren't just treating them only as a pussy, right? You can only want sex with the girl and be very upfront and honest about it. And a girl could be like, hey, you know, that's what I'm looking for too. And you guys have fun, right? And there's not too many hard feelings. Right. Now, when you're dealing with sex and romance and lust, there is a lot of potential heartbreak, even if you don't intend to. Right. So you have to be very, very careful. But at the same time, even if you're looking for a very serious relationship, I'll be very upfront with you. Like, sex is going to be an important part of it. And it's very misunderstood and underestimated. I mean, lust is the main reason why you're getting with someone. I'm not saying love and, you know, compassion and caring for each other and growing with each other isn't an important part of relationships. It's a massively important part of the relationship. But the unique reason why you're dating women is because you want to fuck them. And the unique reason women are wanting to date you or some other guys because you're a man, right? And there's some very obvious implications of that. You don't date your best friend because you're not gay. And understanding that lust is at the foundation of a lot of our decisions is very important. And I'm going to be upfront with you about that in my coaching, right? So morality isn't just about not lying. It's also about being honest with yourself. And I'm going to be really driving home a lot of these points, not only because it's the right thing to do, but actually I think it's the most effective thing. I think the most seductive guy is going to be the most honest and open about the fact that he wants to sleep with women and fuck women. He doesn't hide it and try to pretend, oh, you know, I don't objectify women. You can want to fuck women and not objectify them, right? You're just understanding that, you know, maybe this girl I only want to have sex with, but that doesn't mean I don't understand she's a person. Right? I can respect her autonomy and that she's a human being, but I just only want to have sex with her. And if she's cool with that, cool. If not, cool. Oh, but this girl I really want something more with. Okay, cool. I'm going to approach it with that intention, and I'm going to be clear in my communication about it, right? So you can kind of see the way that I approach this, right? But the foundation of it is very simple. I'm going to be teaching guys, you potentially, if we work together, how to be moral, but also how to be effective, right? And I'm only going to go by what I know works, what I've personally seen work, what I've had clients do that works, or people that I've known, right? So whatever it is that you need help with, whether it's getting a serious relationship, just getting laid, just not being a fucking loser, it could be any of those things, right? I can help you with it. Texting, approaching girls during the day, we call that day game if you're not aware of like these terms. Night game, bars and clubs. I've spent years working in the industry and going out to bars and clubs all over the world. Online dating, I've had plenty of experience with it. It's not my preferred way of doing things, but I know how to do it. Texting, super fucking important. I even wrote a book on texting. And day game, I have a course on it. Relationships, right? Committed, exclusive relationships, also casual relationships, being married, pretty much can fucking teach you anything. Okay. But the question you have to ask yourself, if you really actually want coaching, is how far am I away from my goal? Whatever that is, right? You come to me and you say, Hector, I want this and this and this. Okay. Well, how far away are you from it? Then once you kind of answer that question, and it might be you don't know. It's very likely you don't know how far away you are, right? I mean, if you think about it, you're always one approach away from meeting the love of your life, right? But when you meet her, are you going to be ready for her? Are you going to be attractive enough to not only attract her, but take that attraction and actually turn it into, something, a relationship, whatever. But you might not always know how far away you are from it, right? So then the question you want to ask next is, how much am I willing to pay in terms of money, but also emotions and time and effort into speeding up how long it's going to take to get there? So let's say you worked on your own. It would take you 15 years to get there. Well, would you be willing to pay to have it happen in a couple years, 5 years? I can't predict exactly how fast you're going to meet the love of your life, right? I would be a fucking snake oil salesman if I was promising you that. But I'm 100% certain that if you work with me one-on-one, I'm going to speed it up, right? And a lot of times I'll give guys advice and they'll immediately get results. And sometimes I'll give them advice, and for many different reasons. They're stubborn. It takes them time to fully understand what I'm teaching them. A year and a half later, they'll be like, dude, I finally get what you've been trying to teach me all along. And then they have a big breakthrough. And your expectations also are going to be dependent on, how ambitious they are, right? If you're like, well, within 1 year, I'm going to learn everything you've ever known. That's just not possible. Like, let's just be realistic, right? You're coming to me at a certain point, right? If you have no experience, you're a total beginner. I mean, fuck, dude, like, we have to start from scratch, right? If you have a shit ton of experience, right? Okay, you're going to learn a lot faster and get a lot of results, right? And so we can't predict exactly how fast you're going to move, but generally, the more experienced you are, the better. With the exception being, if you have some habits that are really, really deep-rooted, it might be hard to unlearn those habits, right? So this relationship is very complicated, but essentially, how ambitious are you? How much experience do you have coming to me right now? And then how far do you think you are from that goal? But I'm going to help you get there faster. And also, I had a client recently tell me, we were talking about a situation last year where he met this girl and he really liked her. And at that point in his life, he was like, I'm trying to be much more sincere and authentic, right? It's this, a lot of people try to give this advice. I'm not going to go on too much of a digression, but there's a little bit of like wisdom here. A lot of people think that, I just need to be authentic and genuine and honest, and that's going to solve all my problems. No. Like, you actually just still need skills. You need the skills of knowing, when she says this, it means this in this context because this is how she's saying it or how she's expressing herself, or, this is generally how women work. But in this case, because she's like this, it actually means this. Like, you just have to have knowledge and skills in order to pull shit off, right? Being honest. If being honest was enough to make everything work out, I promise you a lot more people would be having their ideal dating life and relationship life right now. But he had some early success because he was really genuine and sincere with her, and it worked, and they went on a date. But then they went on the date, and things were okay, but then they kind of started to sputter out at the end, and then she sent him a text where she asked him a question, which was essentially like, what are you looking for, right? And he responded in kind of a vague, poetic way, and then she's like, I don't really see this going anywhere. And he was stumped. He was like, well, what happened here? And so I looked at who she was. He told me something about her, showed me a picture of her, gave me the text messages, explained the date and the situation of how they met and this and that. And essentially, because of the experience that I have, both dating women but also coaching people, I was like, okay, this is how I think she is as a person. She has these kind of values and she's this kind of girl. I've met girls like her, right? And then I take like individual little pieces of information and I kind of create like a profile of her. I'm like, look, man, this is generally how she's acting. I've seen these kind of personalities before. It generally means this. But also she's telling you she's looking for this. And then here was this moment where she asked this question and, you answered it completely wrong. Like you totally basically disappointed her, right? You thought you were being genuine and sincere, but actually you were being the opposite of that, right? But that's also not the solution in this case, because she was literally just looking for this and you were this, and then there was a connection break, right? It was very, very detailed, right? I'd have to tell you the whole story for you to completely understand it, but that's how detailed I get about things. And he looked at me and he was like, okay, well, what's the solution? And I'm like, well, this. You know, you should change this about yourself, but also you need to work on this. You need to understand women are like this and da-da-da-da. And after like a 30-minute explanation, he was like, I never would have fucking figured this out in a million years. And I was like, yeah, that's the point, right? So the question of like whether you need coaching or not, I mean, you might be able to figure some of this out, you know, in 10 to 15 years, or it might take you 10 lifetimes of dedicated practice, right? So it's not just a question of, you know, will you complete your goals faster with me or without me? It's, will you even complete them at all, right? And then once you come to that conclusion, which is true, that a lot of cases you might just simply not get the results if you don't work with me, then it just becomes a question of how much you're willing to invest to do that, right? And I'll just be very upfront with you. I'm the most expensive coach that I personally know. There might be some people out there who are more expensive, but from what I've heard, I'm either in the top couple or I am the most expensive coach that I know of in the industry. Oh my God, can't speak. In the industry. Good job, Hector. English. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail once we get on a phone call, right? And if you're already convinced and you don't want to keep listening to me yap and you want to have a one-on-one conversation with me, if you're watching this on YouTube, just go in the description. There should be a link. You click it, goes to my website, hectorcastillodating.com/coaching. You scroll down, you put in your information, email, phone number, whatever, and you submit it, and I'll get back to you, and we'll have a one-on-one talk, right? You'll be seeing me talk like this, but to you, not just on a video. If you're watching this on my website, cool. Just scroll down. You'll see the form. Fill it out. You can turn off this video, and we'll just have a conversation together. But if you want to keep listening, cool. Whatever. I'll explain a little bit how my coaching works. So essentially, all of that, you know, being understood, how the coaching works is we're going to be talking one-on-one like this. The first call that we have, usually it's a get-to-know-you call. And I'm pretty good at basically the way that you express yourself, the way you talk, just how I am, right? You're watching my facial expressions. You're listening to my vocal tonality. You're listening to the words that I'm saying and processing them. You're watching how I move my hands, how I move my face, my eye contact, my body language, right? Everything together. It sort of gives you an impression. And you come to certain judgments and first impressions about me based on these things. Positive, negative, neutral, right? I'll do the same thing to you, right? I'll sort of like analyze you and download you. And then I'll kind of compare and contrast that and cross-reference it, you know, to people who I've known in the past, clients, friends, just people I've passed by. And then sort of see like, okay, you have these good traits that are generally attractive socially and romantically. You have these traits that are not so much, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's kind of like a slider. You know, you ever played like an RPG or like, you know, anything with like a slider where it's like more or less, you know, and different attributes and this and that. There isn't just one way to be attractive. Let me make this very clear, right? My goal is to take your personality and whatever archetype that you kind of fit generally and just maximize the attractiveness of this, right? There's not just one way to be attractive. You don't have to just be James Bond, or you don't have to just be, you know, super outgoing, off the walls, charismatic guy. Like there's all sorts of different combinations that are attractive to women. But I'll see that your current combination of things isn't quite lining up, right? It's giving off this bad impression here. This is good. This is bad. We should change this a little bit, right? But I'm also going to dig deeper into learning your mentalities and your beliefs that in a lot of ways are just objectively wrong, right? They're just objectively inefficient or even harmful to you having healthy relationships or, you know, healthy interactions with women, but that are also sexual, right? And she just wants to suck you off because you're a hot guy, right? I'm going to be very upfront with you and honest with you. I'm very raw, right? I'm considerate with my words, but at the same time, we're trying to fuck girls and have relationships where we fuck girls. I mean, you know how kids are made, right? So if you want a family, you got to bust a fucking nut into her pussy. So, you know, I try to keep things real, but I'm also, you know, pretty philosophical. I hope you can appreciate the balance. I've worked very hard to achieve that, you know, decent balance. But I'm going to get this impression of you. And then also I'm going to be learning these beliefs because you're going to either tell them to me over subsequent calls, or they're just going to emerge based on, hey, I had this experience with this girl, blah, 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 blah. And you'll sort of narrate your own thinking, and I'll be able to extract your principles from this conversation. And I'll go, oh, okay, I think you completely misunderstand what women want, or this and that, or, you're not even clear of what you want, and this and that, right? It's sort of like, I don't want to say therapy because it's definitely not therapy. I'm not advertising myself of it as a therapist, but like I get into the psychology of things kind of on that level, but I'm definitely not a therapist. Make that super fucking clear, right? But the first calls, I get the impression of you, and pretty much I'll figure out your problem, right? Just to put it really bluntly, I just know what's attractive and what's not based on all my experiences and knowledge. And I'm just going to get this impression of you, and I'm going to be like, yeah, girls definitely get the same impression, right? It's almost like I can step into women's minds and their shoes and sort of see how you come off to women, all right? And I'll be like, look, you got to change this. And a lot of my advice to you in the beginning is going to be fixing those first couple things that are just tripping you up. And the goal of that is that if you fix these couple things that are really just immediately fucking your shit up, you'll see a lot of progress really fast. Of course, there's a lot of other nuances and small little details here, and also deep down shit that we have to eventually kind of like dig into, and eventually it'll reveal itself, and we, fix the bad stuff and amplify the good stuff. But that's why it takes time. So a lot of my coaching, I do one-off calls, but I prefer to work with clients for 6 months to a year. And I even have clients who have signed up for 2-year programs, right? Because change takes time. And the more experience I've gotten, the more I've realized that the more time you work at it, the better you get. Fucking duh, right? It works the same way with anything else in the world, right? If you work out for 6 months, you can get some results. But if you work out for a year consistently, you're going to see more results, right? Drawing, writing, filmmaking, acting, singing, it all works the same. Dating is no different. Dating and relationships are a skill. And my goal is to teach you the skills that I know, but also augment and tailor them to whoever you are right now, and then kind of teach you your own style. Figure out your own particular little style and make it actually work within these general principles and philosophies that I understand that work when you're dealing with women, but also other men, right? I teach social skills. A lot of seduction skills are just social skills, plus the fact that you want to fuck each other. And that adds a huge wrench in the system, but you're still operating with social principles, right? So to kind of round it out, do I have anything else I wanted to say? One second, let me check my fucking notes. No. Yeah, I think that's it, right? I can teach you anything. Relationships, texting, day game, night game. I have clients who are like, I have a client who's only online dating guy. I have clients who only do day game. I have clients who much prefer to go out at night. I have clients who are in relationships, and I'm working with them on how to have a happy, healthy relationship. You can transition. You could be the guy who wants to go out and be a player, and then he finds the girl that he falls in love with, and boom, you're happy. The only thing I ask you is that if you do start out as that guy and you get into a relationship, for the love of fucking God, finish your coaching. It's such a common thing that guys will like, I'll help them, they'll get a girlfriend, and they're like, woohoo, I'm so happy, thanks. And then they just fucking disappear, and I'm like, bruh, you still got to learn how to have a healthy relationship. And I just had a client, an old client of mine who I worked with years ago. He had ended up getting married, and then he kept touch occasionally, but then he got back in touch with me a couple months ago, and just to, keep it as quick as possible, he's married now, has a house with her, she's pregnant, but he's like, I want a divorce. And I'm like, bro, like, fuck. And I got on a call with him, and I'm like, all right, give me the full scoop. And he just made a whole shit ton of mistakes, right? Obviously, she wasn't innocent in some of these mistakes, but he had just let things go. Right? He didn't maintain his relationship as well as he should have, because he decided, I'm in a relationship, I'm just going to disappear and be happy. But then eventually his lack of skill caught up with him, and then he was in a shitty situation where he was, he was willing to stay in the marriage to for the kid up to a certain point, but he was unhappy. You know, and I was like, fuck, that's so unhealthy. It's good that you recognize your duty as a future father, but like, fuck, man, you being an unhappy father is not going to be very healthy for the kid. So let's fix what's going on here. But if he had actually stayed with me the whole time after he'd gotten, you know, the relationship and the marriage, outside of a few emails that we exchanged, probably wouldn't have found himself in this situation. So I'm begging you, if we work together and I get you good results, please stick with me and also learn how to have healthy relationships, because most people there are tons of guys out there who are great at picking up girls. I'm not the only one in the world who can pick up girls or pick up hot girls or whatever, right? There's tons of dudes out there that can do that. But I'm one of the few that I know who can also have healthy relationships that are awesome. Okay. So make sure you definitely get your full education, right? As with anything in the world, the more you learn, the more you practice, the better you get, right? So I can teach you anything. I can take you as far as you would like, to the heights of your ambition, whatever it is. Or if you're just super simple and you're starting out and you just want to learn how to fucking talk to a girl without pissing your goddamn pants, I can help you do that. Okay, so I can help you with anything. I'm going to adapt it like a fucking custom-made Italian suit to your personality and your situation. This is not some pre-made program that it's the same for everyone. That's retarded. I'm going to apply it from the first minute to you as a person and go at a pace that works for you. Sometimes it's going to be rough, and I'm going to have to be rough with you because I love you and I want you to make some fucking progress. But also there's self-interest involved, right? I want you to get progress because if you get good results, you'll keep coming back for more coaching, right? Until you reach, you know, a level that you're happy with. Everyone gets off at a different stop because everyone has different levels of ambition. Anyways, yeah, I don't think there's anything else. The next thing we do is we have a one-on-one conversation. So like I said, link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube or somewhere else. Or if you're already on my website, hectorcastillodating.com/coaching. Well, you're already on my website. Why would you have to go to the URL? Anyways, scroll down, fill out the form, submit it, and we'll have a nice little talk. All right, cool. Love you guys. Best of luck. If you have any more questions, you can ask it on our call. All right, see ya. Bye.